As we tell you today at the breakfast show, we go for can talk about the state of democracy assessment report where just don't come out. The National Commission for Democracy and them partner them just don't pull out. And Monday way past sooner being International Democracy Day. And then pull these reports for assess 10 different areas. They look at the media, they look at political participation and so many other areas they would cover regarding these reports, and then we make recommendations them. We go get for can look at the reports, waiting at them findings and all of that we will discuss now the program this morning. And a pleasure for welcome now the studio for talk this. Reverend Jibrila Kagbo, we are the Director of Communications and Public Relations, now the National Commission for Democracy. Good morning, welcome to the breakfast show.
Good morning and thanks for hosting me.
We also get Honorable Abdul Karim Kamara from the All People's Congress APC Party. Good morning and welcome to the breakfast show.
Good morning.
All right, we go just start with the NCD communications man, we in a Reverend Kagbo, for lay the premise of this discussion, because na una partner them do this particular report, also wanna assess the state of democracy in the country, wanna cover 10 different areas, them look at the media, wanna look at political participation, wanna look at free and fair elections and so many other areas them. Firstly, just take the viewers them through the methodology we wanna use for do the assessment before we can look at the details.
Plenty, thank you for the opportunity. As a commission, by virtue of we mandate, we the assess for the attention of government and any other stakeholder, waiting the gaps they will get inside with democracy. And the last time in 2018 we do one, and again this 2025 we don't do another one. Now for this one, we methodology we follow a day in line with what you call the state of democracy assessment framework, where international idea they use. Now somebody go ask why that particular framework, and because when we're ready for do this research or study, we approach international idea and we ask for more support we do what we supposed to do as per we mandate. And so in discussions, signing MOU, etc., we get to that point to say, okay, now the framework we use, we don't use several years now for do what we call the global state of democracy. Interestingly, that report is also out, the global one. But we do one way they reflect Sierra Leone state of democracy. So using that framework, training was done for enumerators. We move now all of the 16 districts and then do what we call focus group discussion, mainly for the enumerators, and then all the research experts then undertake what we call key informant interviews, followed by a review of secondary data. So with all of those put together, we're able to get the first draft, where we review internally as a commission, and with the support of international idea as well, because what happened, we identify several research firms and then go through some kind of process, and eventually we get IGR win and then do the field work for we. But it involves training staff of NCD as well. When they go out and gather the data, we get that first draft, we review them, then send a second draft, we do a review as well, and eventually we go to a validation. We involve several stakeholders, and central to that, now the steering committee, whom we don't put together at the commencement of this work, for make sure say we get several other players were involved, and the co-chair. Now that's that steering committee at the University of Sierra Leone. We inside they will get Statistics Sierra Leone, all the players, parliaments, some ministries, you get CSOs, they always have a steering committee. So we've all been working together. We eventually do a validation and then launch the report on September 15, which was Monday.
So based on that particular information, we don't get on the methodology we want to use for do the assessment. At this stage, the findings was you hold with you, and based on that finding, say how you go describe the state of democracy in a salon currently.
I will put it this way, say we don't make strides. Efforts are being made, noting that democracy is a process, not an event. But even with the strides and efforts we make, we still get challenges in democracy.
We get challenges in the democracy.
Definitely, there are several challenges, issues where the reporters have raised under all of the 10 categories that we will talk about. So,
what's the challenge in the democracy in a salon currently?
Make a try for be exact and take you through some of them. Number one, under political parties and democratic culture, we say we get weak internal democracy within political parties. That's the one thing where the research find out. We also get ethnic and regional loyalty over policy-based platforms. They will get rampant disregard for campaign finance rules. These are some of the issues under political parties and democratic culture. If you count elections and electoral integrity, we see, say, in our own case, whilst in other countries, you get low voter turnout, when we elections then come, we see high voter turnout, people they rush for come vote. But every term after them announce results, contestation the day. Now one thing that they will find out. Then we also see, say, we get limited access to voter registration in polling centers. And the other thing under that category, we get lack of transparency in vote tabulation. The research find out all about that. When it comes to media and civic engagement, we see, say, media independence is compromised by political patronage. We get limited access to diverse media outside urban centers. And then we see the rise of misinformation and hate speech on social media. Under the rule of law and justice, we find out, say, there is passive bias and corruption in the judiciary. Then we also get long pre-trial detentions and unequal access to justice. And we find out, say, customary laws, they often clash with human rights norms.
Reverend,
yes.
Talking about democracy and this assessment we wanna do, and we look at the current state of democracy, you just don't state say challenges there, which is obvious, challenges there, but we can't talk about the state of democracy in a salon without making mention of principles of democracy. From our findings we wanna do, when we talk about principles of democracy, issues we get for do with citizens' participation, freedom of associations, issues them we get for do with transparency, accountability. Waiting on a report they say now the state of renting here currently, because then principles are now one way you can't ride along with democracy if you know they observe them. Definitely.
If you listen to the things already itemized, now they all then cover so under the principle you raise, so whether representation, participation, but make I take one other category, civil society and participation. What's in the report they say? It says CSOs, they are vulnerable to political cooptation. In other words, one moment you go see somebody they sound vibrant, the next moment you see go quiet because sometimes one side don't call them. You don't decide say well, you know, I go align with this side. That now once you come on at the report. Then we also talk about shrinking civic space due to regulatory burdens. That because of how they tighten the schools in the operations of some of them organizations also, restriction on there now. The civic space don't become limited.
Say then they tighten. Who that's them they tighten in this
space? Of course, when we talk about laws in this country, Parliament they make laws, then delegate some of their responsibility to MDAs for make regulations. So you know side they come out. From government side, now they report, they say from findings where people then talk, now this then they say. And we also see by the reporting findings that we get limited youth and women representation in decision making. They applaud the fact, say, by the 2023 election, we see parliament, the number rise, and we see efforts being made, even in local government, but generally across MDAs, we are yet to see that reflected. So the report also, they talk about that. Now,
Reverend, you don't talk about key different areas the way the report talk about on these states of with democracy, the issues we got to do with the elections accountability, we got to do with also the rule of law, and also organs them way they run government, like you mentioned about parliament, we they set the stage for the closer constituency. How you go able to assess the democracy? Because all the reports touch that different areas, then the media, the civil society organization, there are big problems in those institutions. So how you assess the states of the democracy percentage wise? Is it that the country need to practice that actual democracy?
No, for response to that question, they go back to the emphasis of real methodology. Every group, when they do their research, then get a niche, then get the emphasis. What we do at this one, if you eventually when you get the full report, you will realize, say, we want emphasis not so more on the figures for beginning put percentage. We want emphasis now what you will call qualitative research. We want for you what the people and they say, what are the people and views. And at the end of the day, now that we analyze. So we know this research not they come and give you percentage.
So progress day in the democracy of Salon before they come to Honorable AKK. Progress day.
That was where I started. We get some gains, but there are still challenges we will need for work on.
The challenges tend to supersede the gains.
Well, it's a mixed bag. It's rather a kind of tight balance. But of course, with the challenges that we be, it still means that we still for work more for make with democracy, make the kind progress we for make.
Because from what me assess from the report touch different key areas and institutions them. We mean say there is a big gap with regards the country for able to reach to that threshold of practicing the democracy. Like what maybe mentioned about the issue, whether there is a gains or whether we get more challenges than so far with regards to the democracy.
My point remains the same. Say we don't make some gains, but there are still challenges who we need for pay attention to, and that is why again I continue to emphasize the approach to we own research. This time we not go around for beginning to people and saying, "I will get all the sense," and this one for do. When we don't indicate how we go about for gather we own information or data and state the findings them in all of those areas, 10 to be precise, we now get critical governance questions that we will ask where we relate to different institutions, state institutions. We mean say it's again comes to what we call a collective national endeavor for make we all work together and push with democracy go before. So it means a parliament, for instance, get a role for play. MDs then get a role for play. CSOs as well, media institutions, we all get a role for play for take with democracy to that point of what you call democratic consolidation.
All right, Reverend Kabo, we will come to you. So let me just bring in Honorable Abdul Karim Kamara from the All People's Congress APC party. I guess instead of don't go through this one report, but we just want to see what's in the report they say if they speak to the actual things them where they happen now the country, because now the assessments on do but the state of democracy in a salon. Honorable AKK, based on what you see now the reports, how you go describe the state of democracy from your perspective? Because we don't hear from Reverend, it's a mixed bag based on waiting them fair not from the assessments we didn't do. Waiting go be your description of current salon democracy.
May God help we. This don't come from prayer. on a more serious note, I would say issues have been raised. Of course, I'm not expecting the report for Terry in every area why this issue for be raised, why not this, not the findings, but then we'll come out and give a bullet point as I see that in summary on say, okay, there is challenges in parliament, members of parliament, they can't walk, people they feel say the MPs they represent them well, people they think say parliament they do justice to oversight. Again, my only question I go perhaps they ask myself is, were these findings communicated to institutions? Like we they say the media is being polarized, the media is being the effectiveness of the media where their engagement with sludge for able to get their own side of the story, because that keeps the conversation a bit balanced. When you talk about the judiciary and the challenges within the judiciary, were you able to meet with them? Because with me, time I don't spend small at the political space and the issue I don't do, you come to a point that sometimes you blame institutions from which you see out. But when you go in depth, you understand, you'll begin to understand, say, no, it's not just their fault. Like the report we then do so now, NCD, these are supposed to be yearly reports, right?
Well, for now, we look at biannual.
Biannual. So
after every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Mm-hmm. So meaning in that alone, it's difficult for you to come with a comprehensive analysis of a yearly data of the state of democracy, because you have to drag the issues back for you to get all of that one day. But one thing I go say, when one of the major challenge of democracy when it comes to even the governance institutional frameworks of this country, and the lack of funding for the institutions in there. One of the major challenge I would tell you, even when you talk about the judiciary today, so recently, as within the last 6 months, I don't do a long, when I was human rights chairman at parliament, I don't do a long research to tell you say some of the cases that would even get to the delay in a court now because some region they now wanting photocopier there. So you begin imagine say if the judiciary can only have one photocopier inside the areas, you imagine they can board him way down there the cost. And so because of just photocopier, which sometimes of course they stage 15,000, people when they spend 6-7 months on delayed justice. Again, you cannot blame the judiciary solely on that. You also have to look at the way finances are being disbursed to institutions. You look at major, like even most of the we human rights architectures that are now current in the country with democracy institutions are being run by donors. If you look at what the government they allocate for them as a state, you begin to ask yourself, are we really serious about running our democracy? Because these are institutions we continuously rate with democracy and we continuously get yearly reports on democracy. After saying that, I would tell you, say the state of democracy, well, me not one person believe, say, we are even growing. We've actually left the state of democracy ever since 2018. And we find ourselves in a state where we are slowly coming back to democratic tracks, because democracy is not just about voting. When you talk about basically in the reporting, they talk about political parties and free and fair elections, for example. They already tell the report not say anything about political violence during elections. For me, this has been a bottleneck for we as a party, year in, year out, and from 1996 to date, we've not found ourselves as a political party wherein they conduct one whole elections in a whole regions will not they get party observers. Why? Because maybe 2 or 3 days to elections, then we don't burn with party office day, then we don't attack we supporters them, then we don't attack with chairperson, then we don't kill person for we, and we people will be left in a state of total panic.
So is it only the Old People's Congress that don't happen? So because you mentioned from 1996 to now, where we don't conduct elections across the country.
Okay, again, this is where I will make them very clear. Not to just the All People's Congress, it don't happen to, but we don't suffer the huge and the worst part of them. There has never been a point in this history who said they don't stop somebody for serve, even the REFP, now Western area or now the North, where they consider as in our APC strongholds. But this has been a pattern, a constant pattern. So for let the reports totally silent about that one day. It shows say we don't also get we own findings them way. Most of the years we can say if you look at I remember when we did do the Public Election Act. I said this in the Well of Parliament. If you look at the voter turnout in the southeast, it's greater than the total voter turnout in the north and western area. It's simple. Not because the people there are coming out to vote in the mass numbers. When they look at the ward allocation of polling centers, where in the north normally they get like 5 to 7 stations in the ward. In some other parts of the country, they get 14 to 15 polling stations in the ward. So again, these are some of the basic things so they look at. We also get reports in certain areas in this country, people don't even show up for votes, but the voter turnout, they show say you get 80 to 90% of voter turnout. Where even when the people are not, they show face na the ballot na the centers. But this is being felt on the basic facts, say, like in Moyamba by 2018, before the elections, our party office right at the Moyamba Junction was burnt down. People were chased. And so if you talk about the state of democracy and free and fair elections, and that one day is being totally omitted from the report some kind of way, then at the beginning to say, I think we need to include them maybe in the next report, because that is where the state of democracy starts, when the citizens begin feel say they are being intimidated. Again, you talk about the state of the media, but also the report is silent about media practitioners, where state functionaries don't bully over the years, don't beat, don't send a police cells, because I cannot continue as a media person. I was a media person by 2005, 2007, and I know it will go through during that period, the way you dig up in the morning before they reach a standard times and say the whole of this other station newspaper, I don't go get all the journalists in there for waiting. They say one publication they do last week. By the time they know, they don't go get that hand in the back. If you create that kind of fear in journalists, again, the journalists and the media people are also parents. They also get a life for life. They cannot continuously subject their lives to continuous ridicule. But again, if the report is silent about that, we have to begin to look at beyond just what the perceptions of people say. And when we do that one day, with the help for build democracy, not just from a point of view where we will bring out the odds. Like you say, okay, for example, I saw the report on Parliament. I must confess, say, yes, this current Parliament will get under this PR system. Again, I not see you talk about the state of democracy, not talk about the state of election process. We don't talk about the forms of elections. Democracy is a direct representation of people, but in a state where you omit the people, you understand, from the choice of having who represents them, then if I'm here, the effectiveness where the MPs and they get to a constituency is different from the way they get now to a district, because in a district you're talking about a vast area. So if me not come on a certain areas, think about it. Like if you ask the same question to people where they between Congo Ata to Congo Cross Naya, then go tell you say their MPs are not effective. In actual sense,
Reverend, some of them concerns here with the race, but side the way you believe so they be omitted from the reports. Ego can't talk with to make perhaps not just consideration and not being get into them. But one serious thing you want to let you throw light on, if we talk about democracy, the 7th point in the reports, they talk about civil and political liberties. Also, they indict the police, say the persistent refusal of the police to allow people to protest or demonstrate is seen as a significant curtailment on freedom of expression and assembly, and one of which correspondents identified as an attempt by the state and its agents to limit constitutional rights. You think, say, then why a serious threat to democracy where Salon they ignore?
Okay, democracy all over the world, now the freedom of the people for speak. Democracy all over the world, now the freedom of the people for choose who that they want for represent them. In this part of the world where we find ourselves, the people's actual democracy is limited to the day they vote. After the day of voting, majority of the other thing where they enjoy as liberty has been taken away from them. Mabel, I don't say this over and over, and I will continue to say this even if APC didn't have power. I'll continue to say this. If you stop the citizens from expressing their voices, you stop the citizens from protests and forget a way for vent out their anger, you're only preparing a state of total chaos in the minds of the citizens. What protests normally they do is they bring the people, you understand, and the government to a point of discussion. We don't see like Kenya. Then get a culture of most times taking up to the street when then things say, what happened at Kenya, and what happened there, it was done what happened at Kenya. Kenya, it was just the past budget. The budget therefore affects the people in terms of taxation. We've passed many budgets here for do taxations. If I don't pass budget as recent as 2023 budget, we talk about increments in iron rod, cement, yes. If I want to be interested in that budget, they'll pass. Who pass the Finance Act? Now after 1 year, who pass, and then the media begin to talk about them. So people they call it, hey, now on I don't go pass this kind of law. Say when we were debating this law and we were telling government it was wrong, nobody seemingly come to understand and report the matter. So if you limit the freedom of the people, it boils down again to the fact, say, we have to ask ourselves sincere questions. Is the appointment of the Inspector General that is left at the behest of the president, does that make the police a perfect force? Some of them concerns how they can, and also concerns how we don't raise as a party. Now the tripartite. So the whole thing about our current state of democracy is fully embedded in what we call the 84 recommendation, the 80 recommendations of the tripartite. When they are implemented with sincerity, when they are implemented with us and the political class believing that some of the issues the way we get today before we go affect we one way or the other, depending on who's you team up in the equation, then we begin get a state where we really prepare our country for democratic gains. Let me say this. I don't continue for CM and CM back. The country's democracy and democratic credential, they prepare for two things: economic buoyancy. No state, no country, no businessman, no the one do business with a state where the judiciary is deemed corrupt. No country, no business person, no the one do a business with another country where no say in transition of power from one political party to the other is being done in a jungle justice manner. No businessman no go put investment in a country where when government change, the other party go just come. It cancel all contracts.
Is that the case in Sierra Leone currently?
Of course. Of course. Look at the situation will be happen with the is it London mine then call na Lunsa. Look at the one they happen na currently. Yeah, you get forget a state must have a good democratic institutions. Again, that boils down to the fact, see, have we built our institutions to be independent? Wherein, sorry for say this, but most times, even when security institutions want money from the states, they never go libel, they never go bigger na state na finance for and get money. So how do you think they will do their report? If this report was not sponsored by external forces, this will have never come out.
Why?
Because money not forever there for printer. Do you think other institutions don't have reports? They do. But the financing of those institutions, those test institutions, still remains a bottleneck. If I were to look at the budgetary allocations to the office of the ombudsman, when you look at allocations to the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, when you look at allocations to institutions, the way actually the heartbeats of democracy that's alone, you don't know the state of democracy. I know everyone go hand in a public and say, oh, even the order they give is small. Not so small is small. You know, even do for run basic office.
Why should I hesitate to say that?
Well,
you are approving our allocation, so you know how.
No, it is.
And I don't have any reason to be hesitant. Look, me, they can't begin speak English. I'm not going to say for being hesitant.
The bio-led administration and salon democracy, what's going to be your response?
I would say current Lusaude, democracy is dead. It died long ago when we take jungle justice. Just the few weeks, you know, I would do a book the few hours after the call, you know, just few hours after the call elections in Salon. That first 1 year day.
Which of the elections?
The 2018 elections, where we see people not be get equals to everything. We do it say to the old then suspend one judge. Then they tell this they put Judge Don Mutuka, then take the Mutuka then go to. That kind of that scenario day where every other day when you get up in the morning, it was like just like a way military coup overtake a democratic dispensation. Everything was chaotic till we begin to get a situation where people they begin feel say they are being sacked because of them belong to political parties. They are alleged then say they go rally, but today interestingly, me on the street will come out. Chairmen of the SRPP are working in state institutions. You sack somebody we then be just say then see I'm a go pan rally or then see I'm around a red polo. But today you own constituency chairman them, district chairman them, they are working in government. The same crime where you spend we grab the other person for today they do it with impunity. So the state of democracy, we don't see situation where they chase people them out of salon because they talk.
Because that's one for camp. One of the key instruments them inside democracy get to do with the freedom of speech, freedom of association, the rule of law. Now, key things and way they drive democracy. Now every state so far. Are you assessing 3 areas in the? Are they working?
In fact, the trouble started in Parliament. You know, we unlike those days when politicians will not write. This dispensation of APC MPs will write plenty books to tell our stories. Konwale person narrate and for we. Waiting happen at Salon, happen at Ghana, it happen at Liberia. We see how the state. How the ruling party be able to condole the atmosphere and able to get a successful regime. In Ghana, for 5 years, now the opposition hold speakership in the parliament. Where? And the policeman then go to the parliament. That was the burial of democracy in that sacred house of parliament. We see a situation where, for the very first time, parliamentarians were replaced without elections. You call that a democracy. We see a situation where they impose a PR on the people living in West. I just use Western area for 12 constituencies in Western area with no MPs. How do you expect? Okay, you expect the MP within our way reside now Lumley for can cover an issue effectively na Congo water na Shell. If there is a crisis, when democrats they say government of the people, by the people, and of the people, the representation should come from the people. Today, I have the cover Mambolo all the way from Masongbala. How effectively you think say I go did it? Whose communication line with the people and go get with me?
These reports where you don't see, so where they present as assessments of the state of democracy in a salon. From what you don't read, then do justice to salon democracy assessments based on the results where they poll.
No, well, for a state institution pulling this kind of reports, for me, first of all, I feel pleased. Do they cover every other thing where I think so then for be covered? No. Are there other issues left in the report? Yes. Are there other issues we need to address as a nation? Yes. But the fact that this is a state institution, they get the bold mind for assess the police, they assess the judiciary, assess parliament and bring out the inept in parliament. You understand? It shows they've done a very good job. And for me, if at all government they able they continue to give them resources and they do the state of democracy all over the world, nothing that we play the access. Because now when they can report out they come out regularly, like if you talk about internal party democracy, we self as a party they begin what we self say, hey, no, they how they don't count, so now this. You understand? Again, when you talk about state of party, the report also not talk about the state of political groupings them. We like before 2023 election we had COP and how it was frustrated. You understand? He also not come in depth for tell you about the role of PPRC in killing political parties like C4C today we don't die. You understand? The delay in matters of political parties when they get to do with the court. Because if you keep C4C the matter in a court for almost 3 years, the court hold that kind of matter there. It's not just the internal democracy of the party, but how state institutions they run political parties. Like we spent almost 3 good years in a court with the NRM situation. We can't to the Alfred Peter Conte. We now almost 6 months to elections. We actually go get conventions. So the report also not talk about state institutions. And this is not interference because it's their role. It's the role of the PPRC. It's the role of the court. But again, we were able to get a situation where the state institutions like the court and the PPRC for able to speed up the matters and because then also they affect the democratic running of the state.
Let me just bring Reverend Jibril Kabo from the NCD. You don't hear waiting Honorable don't say. And as much as it commend the fact say as a state institution not able for poll such kind of reports, but there are concerns them where it don't raise regarding the findings and the reports and the areas them where on a cover. On a silence that certain areas them where in belief say on a before don't expose if really truly on a talk about the assessment of salon democracy, make mention of the elections, and make mention of media where some journalists get issues with some institutions them where on a silence at the reports. How on a decide waiting for focus on?
Certainly, me not they look at them as say there is a gap or the report is silent on this issue or that issue. If you understand the state of democracy assessment framework, when in international idea they use for do them the global state of democracy assessment, it's easy for make you relate to the findings of this report. Now, you get key areas there where in that framework they focus on. So that is why we get findings from them 10 areas there. So you know they expect one grain report
of free and fair elections. So for instance, anybody where you reports like this come out about the state of salon democracy and you free and fair elections, their attention will quickly go to the past elections, so we just don't get the past immediate elections. We're not covered in that report.
So how you will say not covered? There are specific questions where the enumerators then gonna feel they ask. Probably it's about getting a comprehensive framework of the questions where they ask, the responses given will lead to this kind of reports. There was something about where Honorable mentioned about violence. He said the report silence on violence. It's just about taking a closer look at the report. Then you will not say the issue of violence is also mentioned in this report. For instance, even in this summary, we say respondent complain of victimization of people with alternative views in both ruling party and opposition controls district. So when somebody is victimized, it can be structural victimization, it can be physical one. Now it's about the details. They came for understand say most of these issues where they raise as concerns in a gap, they also find their way into this particular report. So that's what like say everything now they talk about in democracy, we get for factor into the report. It's a perspective, and that perspective is based on existing framework. When you look at the framework in terms of the questions where they under the main theme and then the related questions, then people they respond to. When they give those responses, now they put together and make one analysis and say, when this particular question was asked, the overwhelming response was this. There could be a silent there could be a minority where they say something else. But if the report go capture for most of the time the views of the majority on them particular issues. So me not see gap per se. Almost all of the issues relating to those 10 categories, they are all issues where they border around with democracy. But we need for know this say one report cannot be as comprehensive for cover everything, and you also take into cognizance the issue of duration. If you go back to a previous report we do, you go see things that will cover what may happen in the past. But here we are in 2025. Those things that are so prominent and so evident, take your time for go close a close dive into the report. You will see say the report handle them.
In terms of questioning, you be make mention of one area where in one of the principles in the of democracy, the civic space, the civil space, you make mention of it. They shrink, and this is one big concern where so many people get regarding the state of democracy in a salon. What's gonna be the kind question where on a questionnaire being covered, forget the response of them people are where on a they do na sampling, forget the assessment. What's
so
gonna be
that relates in particular to the operations of civil society. Noting saying that then that interface between state and non-state actors, their operation. How people see them, whether they are active or not. Now the nature of the question that I cannot be very specific now, but when the full report day, we can all come back and look at them, because what we look into right now. So my summary, the comprehensive report will entail all of the questions then they. And in fact, I can probably after this program itself, I can even send on the idea framework from which we get this particular report. We're going to inform understand about the issues, and then go even help we for make we get a better conversation on the matter.
You mentioned earlier on the issue we get for do with the judiciary, and one key area. Only country for practice better democracy.
Certainly.
Yeah. So, waiting at some of the response, from the public, citing issues them way, they happen within the judiciary. We plenty of people on the question about the independence of the judiciary in asylum.
So, taking you back to waiting a note Nayaso about the issues that we the report raise. They talk about perceived bias and corruption usually that people and say as far as they're concerned the judiciary gets issues of corruption bias there, and they also focus attention on that long pre-trial detention and on equal access to justice, that somebody go do something then well from the perspective we say a minor issue, but that person go to detention for a very long time. These are all issues where the report raise. Then they also talk about that connection between customary law and what we call modern law. And in fact, say some term can they clash today, especially in relation to human rights issues. So all of these are concerns raised. And again, I go back to the methodology we employ. You will not see figures or percentage saying that this percentage. That's what we do when it comes to how the police they work or how the judiciary they work. Because here all we decide for doing this kind of report now for tell the story of the people. So the emphasis is more qualitative than quantitative.
So that story then the way una want for tell of the people based on waiting and tell una. The commission worried about the state of democracy in a salon based on waiting come out.
Definitely.
What are the threats them to democracy? Where una find out? We make una worried.
So, if for instance, the ordinary man when you talk to a treaty, tell you say, feel say the judiciary corrupt free. If you say the judiciary bias, that becomes a source of concern for we. Where the points to what you would call lack of trust in state institutions. And that has been a perennial problem. But the people still are emphasizing that. We come to how police they operate, the people engage in view. All of that, nothing way, by virtue of this report we don't get, we even try for work on a rollout plan, how we formate state institutions and talk about the content of this report and what we will for do next. Not forgetting, say, for most of the things that we then raise so, what this report raise, now for make we look at the issue of reforms. How we reform we country in democracy for make things work better. Now, an aspect that I for make we left out in this conversation, we relates to rights. The report, in fact, is segments rights into two categories: the ECOSOC rights, the civil and political rights. These are things we will for pay attention to. Now, fundamentally, we have a constitutional challenge, especially when it comes to the ECOSOC rights. Because if you constitution or even confer those rights, they are not rights per se in the constitution when it comes to economic, social, and cultural rights. Because they are the thing that we look at, say, na economic and social, cultural rights, then they're under Chapter 2 of the Constitution, where we call in we own constitutional terms the fundamental principles of state policy, where for guide how different institutions of the state they work for, make sure say they reflect them things and they. So education not a right per se. If you look the constitution, starting in fact, when you look at the objective of the state, whether na political objectives, the economic objective of the state, the foreign policy objective, all of them they're under Chapter 2. Now, somebody when they look at them from a human rights lens, go say all of those they relate to what we call ECOSOC rights. But when you now go to Section 14 of that same constitution, it tells you say even though these are aspirations we want for see the government to work with, you don't take anybody to court for that. The difference now if you go to Chapter 3, we deal with civil and political rights. Then you can enforce your rights by going straight to Supreme Court, pursuant to Section 28. So we get a situation we say we get for look at what's in the happen. When it comes to bread and butter issue, now at the whims and caprices of the one that we're in charge. What's and when is available. If they not give you now, if you want now for going to court and say, well, they take honorable to court because we be who campaign to me tell me say everything will be all right. But honorable gonna remind me say everyone not forget to Section 14 day. But if now me rights that be rights for to life. If you want for deprive me of, I can go straight to Supreme Court, but not to the same with the yam and bread and butter issue.
So looking ahead, what do they recommend for the institutions them way, particularly these reports they cover based on an assessment? Now,
democracy presupposes getting a conversation, a dialogue. We approach the various institutions them. Right. And one thing I'm not for forgetting this conversation is that although not everybody go know what's in the happen, but most of these institutions we talk about so they were part of the arrangement. Because what you will do when we conceive the idea, say we need for access with democracy again, we establish a steering committee. That steering committee there, the university now then are the co-chair, University of Sierra Leone, because we believe say then things here so when the report come out, we for spreading our learning institutions. But if one person represent the university, it don't mean say everybody go know say they've been involved. Parliament is strong in this report because every meeting we hold, Parliament was represented. But of course, the politician will tell you say they were not even aware, because definitely when we approach Parliament, most of the time we need to go through the politicians, we go through the administration. And then now go make their arrangement, say, okay, now politician will represent we or an administrator will represent we. So we don't get control over that. But Parliament has been fully involved in this thing. Various MDs, CSOs, they all did it. So even before the reports come out, some of them don't know what's in contained inside the report, because when we go back and forth in this review, they don't see the drafts and how waiting there for happen eventually, even as the report they out now. So not for some people, not so surprised. Agreed for some, not surprised when they see them. And I appreciate the fact, say, Honorable, they commend the state institution for gets this kind courage for bring out this kind of report. We not go claim say we will be successful 100%, but at least we know say we reach that threshold, and it is even dependent on the framework we use. If we change the framework also based on conversation with all of the players, you go see a different outcome. We go cover different other things, but for us at this particular point in time, we're comfortable with that international idea framework when and then they use over time for assess democracy across the world.
All right, many thanks for the program this morning. We will just come over to Honorable AKK as to the wrap up. This particular framework where Reverend Cabo just don't say nine they use from Ideas International for do this assessment. It advisable for them stick to them from your perspective?
Well, as I say, they not get option because they not get resources. Reverend Cabo make them very clear. I say they approach many people for get sponsor for this work, meaning it's their mandate to do, but they not get resources. And when you look at the economic and social rights, we now part of the report with Engi, you see they also factor say issues we get for do with health, education, social welfare, maximization of the social well-being of the citizens are not being addressed. Not so basically priorities on when it comes to the rights. We find ourselves in a situation in which the bread and butter we always talk about is being determined by what government gets. And for me, in America, I can say with democracy and with state of current economy gets challenged the very first year, the transition mode what we get. And even currently within a parliament, every other day with the one government on how they do the agreement with other private players. One of the things we show now, even when I hear the Minister of Information, they say, oh yes, the country they starve of resources. And the fact within the last 7 years, we've given out key government institutions where they make money for the state to private institutions. Take Zudlab, for example. Take the immigration component where they give resident permits. Take other key institutions them. And you not go don't take all the beef na the pot you give your neighbor, then you expect your man for eat chicken. No, na the bone go life. You know, so we've given up as a country most of the viable institutions. Go to Wataki, some of the agencies they work, they're not private institutions them. So the state actually is starving of resources because now so we don't make them for be. This how we don't tell them for be. And you know go cook yam, you expect to get petete, a sweet petete at the pot. No. So that's the situation we find ourselves. So in that kind of state, we're not going to address most of the economic and social rights of the people. When it comes to education, we all see what happened recently. We get for struggle for ensure say we settle some of the basic things. Again, ask yourself the questions. Economically, as the economy stands, so if you pay 10,000 leons for primary school picking, if you take the max, if you can't go to any of them schools out there for even buy form for let the picking go to the school, a more expensive than even the university form. So you let alone talk about the fees. So what you pay for picking a private school, one picking per term, you pay for like a 300 picking na government school per the same time, and you expect the same quality in those schools. It can't work that way.
So without resources, you say a country not go able for practice better democracy, because we look at democracy get to do with the will of the people, the willingness of the people for adhere to certain principles then. Because from when you start, you don't mention on issues that we get for do with government not get the fund, money not there, and if there is no money for one certain state institutions, it could be difficult for them to get better democracy.
Okay.
Is that the point?
The question is not money not there. The question is we're spending money on things that we're not relevant for the state. We're spending monies on things that we basically we can do without. For a country like Sierra Leone, actually, if I mean at the journalist and I ask you the question, do we need a private jet for the president? Is that the felt needs of Sierra Leoneans? The answer, if you put on any questionnaire, 99.9% of the Sierra Leoneans would say no. Do we have embassies that could have addressed most of the meetings so they get high power delegations and for attend? Yes. But do we have to fly there every other moment? No. So basically we're spending our resources as a state on things we know they add value to the lives of the ordinary citizens. Take for example, where you talk about under this ECOSAC right, go to the Hospital of Excellence, the Madabi Hospital of Excellence will open a Lumbly. You don't get water. So imagine you own a medical facility, you don't get pipe-borne water. What's I go Fibalek? Those are basic challenges where they affect the ordinary citizens. So, in other words, we are saying the country not get money because the things that we forget the country money, we don't privatize them to private people. When it comes to the civil and political liberties, the civil and the CSOs, you understand? For me, I have said this and I owe nobody an apology for them. Majority of the CSOs, them, we don't be justified in the last appointment from 2023 to now. They were politicians. People don't in the civic space for a long time. They tell you, say, I have been a card-carrying member of this party for over 15 years. So they kill the integrity of those institutions where people will be look up to and they run up to. And one of the things was scary for we as a nation, that the fact say, Sierra Leoneans that people will always look out for, get places for go and cry when they get problems with the state or even within communities. But if they're institutions and they're like they're CSOs, you understand? Today, most of them, the people have lost that kind of confidence in them. You ask yourself the question, what is left for the ordinary citizens? So, I know, one thing I know will go against it all, this report, now the part of parliament. This is how we talk about parliament. But again, I will say this. If we continue a PR system where the member of parliament not get a direct commitment to a constituency, waiting then at this report, so I to the second at the parliament, when people know they go parliament, they don't care, because as far as I'm concerned, as long as I not go and I not day above the 30 days, where then give me say if I not attend sittings, I go lost my seat. As sure say I have a very good relationship with my people in my party, I will come back to parliament definitely. So the PR is a conversation we seriously as a country get for talk about, see, because the only hope what the people get for participate in democracy after voting at the parliament. So if that parliament again not reflects their wish, if APC give me a symbol, maybe people in Amasungba are not think say they're comfortable with me, they can shoot an independent candidate. We see them throughout the years, and I think that is good for our democracy.
In relation to that,
Quickly, because of the
yeah, we don't. We begin not conduct.
You have the ideas.
The concept is available.
You have the ideas.
Parliament should give us the necessary support so that many people then decide. Say, now this we want.
It is sincerely, maybe it's a good one. The truth is, there is no way, no parts in the world where you want. Democracy is by type and by brand. For we Naya, the acceptable brand now where the people believe say they can hold you accountable for serving them. And the people also believe, say, if you don't do justice to them, they self get away You understand? For hold you accountable as a parliament. But if you take that away from the people, then
all of them concerns and the many thanks for the program this morning. Today we've been get Reverend Jibril Kabo from the NCD National Commission for Democracy and also Honorable AKK from the APC as we've been looking at a report with them pull on the assessment of democracy in a salon. And according to the reports, now a mixed bag, also progress day, but also challenges and day to salon democracy. And I think we can studio this morning. And earlier in the program, we'll be look at the issue we get for do with the suspension of of Justice Holloway. We see State House communication being come out say they suspend them. We will definitely go for Fentem for look at in-depth analysis of that particular issue day. And quickly from Melvin, where we've been talking to a colleague journalist regarding that issue, the way they make comments on. Melvin say, please let me correct myself by retracting that the 1967 removal of Justice Cole was under Albert Magai and not Shekhar Stevens as it been stated. It go further for say, however, a similar move was taken in 2010 under Ernest Koroma against Justice Holloway and Alusain Sisi as High Court judges. Well, now that retraction day from Melvin, we go wrap up this edition of the breakfast show. Many thanks. So una always continue for like, share, and send una message them na the different platform them usai una can watch we. Until we meet again, I want to say many thanks to the production team. Na Musa Saukuruma make una see we live, and until we meet again, me welcome to say goodbye.